777 Morningstar Formation Incorporated Kingdom of Maharlika presents Meet the Real Jesus. Welcome to Chapter 5, Jesus in Palestine, the historical facts. Marcos 4:41. At sila'y nangatakot ng lubha, at sila'y nangagsasabihan, sino nga ito? Na pati ng hangin at ng dagat ay tumatalima sa kaniya. Mark 4:41. And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, what manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Did you know that Jesus of Nazareth was a tax-paying operator of the family business? Was attracted to beautiful girls, wine and dine in the homes of the wealthy, as well as slept on the bare ground, ate angel food and talked to spirits, was not born on December 25, owned at least one nice home and probably two, was strong, athletic, well-muscled, and rugged, had short hair. Did you know that Jesus is actually alive today? And here, the Morning Star will testify this.
We are now in chapter 5, Jesus in Palestine, the historical fact. But before we start our reason, may I ask you again to subscribe, click, share the joystick. Please repeat after me. Jesus in Palestine, the historical fact. The importance of Jesus Christ's life and death is recorded in the New Testament. Yet, for those who do not accept the New Testament as accurate history, other records have been preserved, which clearly shows that the human life of Jesus Christ was fact, not fiction. In time past and present, some atheists and agnostics have gone so far as to claim that no real evidence exists outside the New Testament to prove that Jesus of Nazareth actually lived and died. And the New Testament, of course, is dismissed as the pious brood. It is true that no record of the crucifixion of Jesus has come down to us from Pilate himself, but other records have been preserved, which do mention Jesus of Nazareth. These records are non-Christian in origin, and hence can be regarded as neutral. This interested historical proof of Jesus' life and subsequent crucifixion by the Romans. Writing around the end of 1st century AD, the Roman historian Suetonius tells us that in AD 49, the Emperor Claudius banished all Jews from the city of Rome. An incident also mentioned in Acts 18 verse 2. Please read.
At nasumpungan niya ang isang Hudyo na nagngangalang Aquila, isang lalaki tubo sa punto na hindi pa nalalaong nanggagaling sa Italia, kasama ni Priscilla na kanyang asawa, sapagkat ipinaputos ni Claudio na ang lahat ng mga Hudyo ay magsialay sa Roma at siya ay lumapit sa kanila.
He expelled the Jews from Rome on account of the riot in which they were constantly indulging at the instigation of Christus, Claudius 25:4. Christus was a common misspelling of the name Christ. These riots were probably the result of the recent arrival in Rome of Christianity, which would have caused considerable dissension in the Jewish community. There, as it did elsewhere, for example in Acts 21 verse 31,
At samantalang pinagpipilitan nilang siya'y patayin, ay dumating ang balita sa Pangulong Kapitan ng pulutong na ang buong Jerusalem ay nasa kaguluhan.
writing many years later, Suetonius doubtless misunderstood the police record of rioting and took the name of Christus to refer to some individual that name. A more detailed account of Christ comes from Roman historian Tacitus, writing between AD 115 and 117. Tacitus tells us in AD 64, the Emperor Nero tried to blame the disastrous fire in Rome of the Christian. Tacitus then goes on to describe this Christian. They got their name from Christ, who was executed by sentence of Procurator Pontius Pilate in the reign of Tiberius. That checked the pernicious superstition for a short time, but it broke out afresh. Not only in Judah, where the plague first arose, but in Rome itself, where all the horrible and shameful things in the world collect and find a home. Annals 15:44. From Tacitus' comment, it is clear he had no sympathy for Christianity. Yet, for him, there was no question that his founder actually lived and was executed by Pontius Pilate, where he was procurator over Judah several decades earlier. Tacitus was not writing from heresy. He was a Roman historian of note. He had access to official court record, diplomatic correspondence, and Roman archives. Aside from his pagan anti-Christian bias, his account is reliable confirmation of the New Testament account of Christ's death and its aftermath. Roman historian is not only one who tells us of Jesus of Nazareth. Ancient Jewish tradition preserved in the Talmud also mention him. Jewish scholars generally agree that some of traditions of Jesus' death by crucifixion were maintained among the Jews for several centuries after the event and were finally put in Babylonian Talmud about AD 500. One such passage which something referred to Jesus, though a number till it referred to someone else, read as follows. On the eve of Passover, they hung Jesus And the herald went before him for 40 days, saying, He is going forth to be stoned, in that he has practiced sorcery and beguiled and lead astray Israel. Let everyone know it. Oh, in their defense, come and plead for him. But they found no defense and hung him on the eve of Passover. Written in Sanhedrin 43:8. Another account of Jesus is found in writing the famous Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, the 1st century AD. However, historical feel that the passage was later altered by Christian scribe to make Josephus say that Jesus was possibly the Messiah, something Josephus himself probably did not write. However, one Jewish scholar has rendered the passage as follows. Now, there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher, for such men as received the truth with pleasure. It drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men among us, had condemned him to cross, those that love him at the first ceased not to do so. And the rest of Christians who named from him are not instinct even now. Clauser, Jesus of Nazareth, page 55 to 56. Josephus also mentioned Jesus briefly on another passage, which the scholar felt is quite genuine. He convened a judicial session of the Sanhedrin and brought before it the brothers of Jesus who called Christ, James by name, and some others whom he charged with breaking the law and hung over to be stoned to death. Josephus, Antiquity 2200. Many other accounts, mostly fragmentary, have come down to us besides the one that are quoted here. Many of these give further details which corroborate the New Testament account of Jesus. These documents so vindicate the New Testament record that the Professor Clauser stated, if we possess them alone, we should know nothing except that in Judah there had existed a Jew named Jesus, who was called the Christ, the Anointed, that he performed miracles and taught the people that he had killed, that he was killed by Pontius Pilate at the instigation of the Jews, that he had brother named James, who was put to death by the high priest Annas, the son of Annas, that owing to Jesus there arose a special sect known as Christian, that the community belonging to this sect existed in Rome 50 years after the birth of Jesus, and that from the time of Nero. The sect greatly increased, regarded Jesus as spiritually divine, and underwent severe persecution. Jesus of Nazareth, page 62. False concept as a Jesus would be at least partially removed by understanding more of the environment that was Palestine during Jesus' day. Few understand the true pictures of Jesus as the brain of social custom, the type of agricultural architecture, the flow of garments and business, and the whole panorama of Jewish life during the Herodian period. It is incredible that so many books of theologian research, Bible, dictionaries, histories of the Holy Land, and other works of the life and time of Jesus use the illustration of Palestine of the turn of the century. The old woodcut, ravelop, photos, and oak, the reprinted scene of the brick runs of the ancient cities, Bedouin tent, camel, caravan, velvety street, rocky, barren hillside, which tend to leave the impression that this is a Palestine to the time of Christ. Nothing could be further from the truth. The land that is now drastically depleted, mostly deforested, heavily eroded and reduced to dust, was almost 1900 years ago a fertile, beautiful, rich part of the world, virtually unrivaled in industry, wealth, and strength. If you could have walked the street of cities of Capernaum, Nazareth, through any of the confederation of Decapolis, the 10 towns in Galilean region, you would have been startled by the quill and wealth and Jerusalem itself. You would have been even more amazed than were Jesus' own disciples over the beauty, magnificence, and size of Jerusalem, especially of those buildings associated with the temple. In ancient time, God had promised the Israelites the land of flowing with milk and honey. One remembers the account of the spies sent to search out the land, who come back with tales not only giant men, but the fruits and produce so abundant and so large that they are virtually unknown among modern agricultural products today. The implication of the account of one cluster of grapes being carried on the bull by two men is clear. Each grape must have been about the size of the palm or a lemon. And they come to the body of the school and cut down from there the branch with a single cluster of grapes, which they carried it to the pool between two of them. They brought also some pomegranates and pigs. And they come to Moses and they told him, "We come to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is the fruit." In Numbers
13.
23 to 27. Please read.
At sila'y dumating sa libis ng Escol, at sila'y pumutol doon ng isang sangang may isang kumpol na ubas, at dinala sa isang pingga ng dalawa. Sila'y nagdala rin ng mga granada at mga igos. Ang dakong yaon ay tinawag na libis ng Escol, dahil sa kumpol na kinitil ng mga anak ni Israel doon. At sila'y nagbalik pagkatiktik sa lupain, sa katapusan ng 40 araw. At sila'y nagsiyaon at nagsiparoon kay Moises at kay Aaron, at sa buong kapisanan ng mga anak ni Israel, sa ilang ng paran, sa Kades. At kanilang binigyang sagot sila, at ang buong kapisanan at ang kanilang ipinakita sa kanila ang bunga ng lupain. At kanilang sinaysay sa kaniya at sinabi, "Kami ay dumating sa lupaing yaong pinaparoonan mo sa amin, at tunay na binubukalan ng gatas at pulot, at ito ang bunga ni yaon."
The early Israelites weren't only impressed by the gigantic size of the fruits and produce of the land, they were frightened to death at the size of the people living there. They said, "Oh, people that we saw in it are men great stature, and we seem to ourselves like a grasshopper. It was written in Numbers 13:32 to 33.
At sila'y nagdala ng masamang balita tungkol sa lupain kanilang tinitigtikan sa mga anak ni Israel na sinasabi, ang lupain na aming pinaroonan upang tiktikan ang isang lupain na kinakain ng mga tumatakan doon. At lahat ng bayan na aming nakita roon ay mga taong malalaki. At dooy aming nakita ang mga Nipilim, ang mga anak ni Anak na mula sa mga Nipilim. At kami sa aming sari-saring paningin ay naging parang mga balang at gayon din kami sa kanilang paningin.
It is logical, therefore, to have expected that the largest and therefore strongest people would populate the richest area. The land of Israel combines every variety of climate, from perennial snow of beautiful Mount of Hermon and the cooler, higher elevation of Lebanon to the more pleasant warmth of the Valley of Galilee and the tropical and humid climate of the Jordan River facing the Mediterranean Sea. According to the most ancient record, every piece manageable thing, the water of that country fishing was a major industry, as evidenced by some of Jesus' own disciple occupation. And birds and wild fowl were abundant. In your mind eyes, you need to imagine a country more like some of the western mountains, states of United States, perhaps portion of northern or central California, but it's much smaller area encompassing the deep depression, such a Death Valley. Within lies the Salt Sea and terminals of Jordan River, together with lofty slope-flat mountains, higher elevation, piston with conifer and every sort, especially the wood being cedar of Lebanon, seemingly endless corn and pasture land, terraced hills covered with olives and vines, glades and pleasant valley bubbling with the spring and steam naturally by the time of Christ. A great deal of the land had been abused, and no small amount of depletion of natural resources and subsequent erosion and loss of arable soil had already occurred. Still, it was immensely richer than it is today. Therefore, although many glowing accounts of the beauty of that land exist in the book of Exodus, Leviticus, and some of the major prophets, description of pastures which seems to be clothed with black, and of the land of milk and honey, may not have been quite so accurate by Jesus' day. Nevertheless, abundant literature exists, and archaeological finds substantiate that the Palestine of Jesus' day was luxurious, wealthy in natural resources, dotted with towns and cities that were replaced. This better example of the finest engineering and architectural principle of the day, and represented one of the most important positions of the Roman Empire. Palestine was prized of its export of fruits, grains, to Roman treasure, from the heavy system of taxation imposed upon the people. Herod was a great builder. Not only was the temple during Jesus' day an absolute marvel of glittering stone and beautiful architectural, but there were so many fortresses, palaces, temples, amphitheaters, and public structure of the area of Palestine was among the very finest in the empire. Look upon the jewels of the crown of Caesar himself. Try to imagine the city of Capernaum. It is the was most important city and frequently mentioned by the writer of the Bible in connection with the life and ministry of Jesus. Millions of Bible illustrate the illiteracy. Think of Christ's ministry as having taken place in the street of Jerusalem. Many suppose his Sermon on the Mount was probably delivered on the Mount of Olives, adjacent to Jerusalem. You seem to understand. Most of his ministry was conducted in northern Israel around Capernaum and the dozen of towns in the Galilee. Galilee was the motley collection of many races and religions, distinctly tainted with the foreign and distasteful element in the opinion of the religious Bibles of Jerusalem. Galileans were generally regarded as crude, half-bred, low, with varying degrees of pity and contempt. The present-day attitude of some few Englanders toward those from Dixie with southern drawl might be an appropriate analogy. That's why the intellectual and spiritual leader of Jerusalem called Christ as his disciple a crude and unlearned lot without academic or spiritual credential. Even though Jesus grew up in Nazareth after his family returned from the exile in Egypt, Joseph's business took him and his son into other cities and towns in Galilean area. Remember that a young Jewish boy was expected to join the adult community at about 12. That was a super time of Roman occupation, heavy taxation, and poverty, vermin, and potential for rebellion. There had been a spate of abortive attempt of Macedonian revival at the fear of the life and death power of the religious leaders, as well as the oppressive rule of the previous Herod. It was hardly a cheerful time for carefree young children to grow up with time on their hands, endless play, and daydreams. Jesus had been taught his father trade from his earliest youth, and no doubt labored first at his father's side, Joseph, and following Joseph's death as the head of the family and its business. His building trade was well known throughout the area, and just it quite common for contractor or carpenter to live in a home built in his own hands, by his own design, or by his own word. So Jesus and his brothers, Joseph, Simon, Jude, and James, together with their helpers, must have constructed a large home for their family named Capernaum. The home in Capernaum and the city itself are prominent in early ministry of Jesus. When Jesus would return to Capernaum, he was said to have been at home. Mark 2, verse 1.
At nang siya pumasok uli sa Capernaum pagkaraan ng ilang araw, ay nahayag na siya ay nasa bahay.
It was really a house. According to archaeological discoveries, the city of Capernaum, like many other port cities, seems to be divided into distinct sections. The one part was almost wholly devoted to the fishery industry, the other the business and residential section of what was one of the finest cities of that part of the world. Peter and Andrew both live in the nearby Bethsaida, along the shore of the lake few miles further south, Mark 1:29.
At paglabas nila sa sinaguga ay nagsipasok pagdakat sa bahay ni Simon at ni Andres na kasama si Santiago at si John.
In Mark 1:30,
Nakahigangang nilalagnat ang biyanang babae ni Simon at pagdakay, pinakiusapan nila siya tungkol sa kanya.
in Luke 4:38,
At siya ay natindig sa sinaguga at pumasok sa bahay ni Simon. At nilalagnat na mainam ang biyanang babae ni Simon. At siya ay kanilang ipinamanhik sa kanya.
So try to imagine that you are standing in one of the main streets in Capernaum. You would not doubt to see houses of all types, differing in size and scope, depending entirely upon the substance and wealth of the owner. The houses would range from small cottages, only 30 or 40 feet square, on up with a large home of the fairly wealthy of 2 or even 3 stories or more, while now common it would not have been rare to see any number of homes of 2 stories or more, which would have featured rich architectural embellishment of pillars and decorative trenches built in the style of the Roman villas of the same period. Of entering such a home, you would have noticed a beautiful stonework or marble or more expensive stone. The walls painted with delicate colors such as vermilion or whitewash, and a large interior courtyard where you would have a pool and possibly a fountain opening to either side would be living quarters to the rear, and upstairs would be a large public rooms for dining and family meeting. A wide stairway of beautiful quarried stone would lead directly from the street up the side of the home to the rooftop building. Codes of time require that the large rooftop be provided with decorative handrail to protect people from falling. The roof would probably have been paved with bricks or stone, or possibly one of the cement used at the time. The roof always sloped slightly towards the front, so that the cisterns sometimes contained even within the homes themselves were filled with rainwater by tap, which caused the rain of the wet season. It would be quite common to see families of the cities of Palestine, including Jerusalem and those of the Galilean area, gather in cool of an evening of the rooftop for discussion or to call for neighbors across the way. Actually, the way the homes were built, it was possible to go from roof to roof. The rabbinic literature spoke of the roofs of the roof. Read Jesus' statement in Matthew 24 of one who might be called of the house top during the time of severe national crisis. He was speaking both of the destruction of Jerusalem, start of the time called in the Bible the Great Tribulation yet ahead. Jesus told them not to come down to take anything which might be in their house, indicating that they could use the roof to the roofs, passing from roof to roof until perhaps at the final home in the block, they might make good their escape from descending to the ground. Once, Jesus was gathered together with his disciples, and a large crowd of people inside his own home in the city of Capernaum. Now, a group of people desperate to have their sick friend healed took up the stone of the roof and let the sick man down into the large upper room where Jesus was. And he entered again into the Capernaum after Sunday, and it was noise that he was in the house, and straightway many were gathered in, so much that there was no room to receive them, no, not so much as about the door, and he preached the word unto them. And they come into him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was borne on board, and when they could not come right into him for their press, they uncovered the roof where he was, and when they had broken it up, they let down the bed wherein the sick of the palsy lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sin be forgiven thee. In Mark 2:1-5. Please read.
At nang siya'y pumasok uli sa Capernaum, pagkaraan ng ilang araw, ay nahayag na siya ay nasa bahay. At maraming nagkatipon. Ano ba hindi na magkasya? Kahit sa pintuan man, at sa kanila'y sinaysay nila ang salita. At sila'y nagsidating na may dalang isang lalaking lumpo sa kanya na usong ng apat. At nang hindi sila makahalapit sa kanya dahil sa karamihan, ay kanilang binakbak ang bubungan ng kanyang kinaroroonan. At nangyari kanilang masira, ay inihugos nila ang kinahihigaan ng lumpo. At pagkakita ni Jesus sa kanilang pananampalataya, ay sinabi sa lumpo, Anak, ipinatatawad ang iyong mga kasalanan.
This revealed that Jesus was in a home which was obviously his own. It was noise abroad that he was in the house, which rendered by other translation at home. This is also illustrate the fact that those who were so anxious to have their friend healed easily able to climb to the rooftop via the outer stairway. Jesus was in his own home, either in large upper room capable of accommodating more than 100 persons, or possibly in a large central courtyard that was feature of Jewish home of that size and scale. Servant quarters are vestibule for guests were located near the front sleeping quarter, around which side and larger upper rooms toward the rear with a large family kitchen. It was not unusual for such homes to have interior fountains with planting, and many of them have been open to the outside air, not unlike those Spanish villas designed as much later time. Jesus' ministry centered in the area of Capernaum and later the city where he grew up and was so well known as Nazareth. The synagogue into which he entered and healed the man with a withered hand on Sabbath, Mark 3rd chapter, was no doubt the synagogue of the city of Capernaum. He was teaching by the seaside. Mark 4:41.
At sila'y nangatakot, nalubha,
at sila'y nangagsasabihan, sino ito? Sino nga ito? Na pati ng hangin at ang dagat ay tumatalima sa kanya.
The Sea of Galilee, Capernaum, occupied in northwestern shore, when the 5th chapter speaks of Jesus going to the other side of the sea, to the country of Gadagreen. It refers to the Golan Heights of today. So, before we finish our course, we ask you again to click subscribe, like in the Juris TV. This is the only way we can reach you, my friend. Your servant. God bless you all. May I say thank you very much for your guidance.
DJ